Video 33. May 12, 2011. Frogger asks, is it an evolutionary default that all technological beings are only humanoid? Meaning, any beings that are to evolve the ability to travel throughout the stars have to be humanoid to be able to perform functions necessary for this? Frogger, this is not true. Being humanoid is not a prerequisite for having intelligence. Reptilians, dolphins, insects are not humanoid races and, in some cases, highly intelligent beings. There are breeds of descendants of insects that have developed logical intelligence, long before the humanoid. They did not have the same rapid development of humanoids due to the anachronism inherent to the physical characteristics of their breeds. But you will know different breeds descended from insects when you friends are integrated into the Community Galactica. They travel very well with their spacecrafts through all galaxies. Panos asks, are people from the governments that take advantage by enslaving millions of peoples? Why are they doing this to us? Only for the money or something else that we cannot even imagine? What is your opinion about all these? Panos, since the first tribes were introduced on your planet, the interracial differences led to slavery regimes. Much of the time, males were removed and the females were taken to work and forced into procreation. This eventually amalgamated several races in the past, with the hybrids becoming subservient. Over the ages, the concept of slavery was accomplished by your elites, eager for profits and power, always supported by your church. Even today, your elites maintain the feudal system of government, where they manipulate the masses at the whim of their needs. You, the simple people, are pawns. You are deluded to fight for a false flag, where you will be dying for the interests of the ruling elite, not for ideals previously touted. Most of you cannot spot it, and you were so well conditioned by the times that today almost all have lost the ability to discern. You are manipulated to keep them in power, the representatives they want, like puppets in a theatrical circus. The only way to get rid of this vicious cycle is the process that lies ahead. Interpret this as a blessing, finally the end of slavery. A friend asks, Mythi, knowing there are existing societies that are much more advanced than yours, does the possibility exist that you could be wrong because you lack the level of wisdom necessary to be precise in your answers? Friend, the development of any race passes through stages of understanding. It does not work for you try to explain the operation of your cell phone to an Indian who lives in the jungle. There is a lot of previous knowledge necessary before he can begin to understand. It would take a long apprenticeship of a new civilization, so that this could happen. You must have the patience to start with the lamp to one day arrive at the satellite. There is no use for you to communicate with beings far more advanced than your brain's ability to understand logic. Be patient, give yourself the time needed for knowledge to flow naturally in your development. I can understand certain logic of far advanced beings, but this is not very useful to me, because they are not aware that I can immediately apply it to my development. Since I cannot make sense enough to be correctly understood, not yet having reached that state of mind. Is the meaning of my placement understood? Anik asks, Mythi, I would like to know what are the connections between the Egyptians, Dogons, and the people of the Sirius solar system. Is this where Africans come from, or are we indigenous to this world? Anak, African black people were a seeding of an ancient reptilian amphibian culture of a planet in Sirius. They brought the various segments of humanoids that were already acclimated to their planets with comfortable conditions for the reptiles, to create humanoid colonies of workers who follow their designs to develop tasks for the preparation of areas for future colonies. The reptilians enjoy hot spots, and Africa was chosen by them for the beginning of colonization. We're talking about 7,500 years ago. Since this colony was already designated to be a humanoid colony, there was fighting to expel the reptilians. The people who fought against the reptilians were Atenians of Andromeda, who were protecting the developing humanoid colonies, especially the initiation of the Egyptian colony. They were assisted by units from the Pleiades who monitored other colonies on the planet. The black races of humanoids were not part of the set of DNAs brought to the planet for the first settlements, but were brought in from locations known to this reptilian ancient culture. It is a totally different segment of DNA. After the expulsion of reptilians, these black races might be organized into tribes and spread through the African continent. Friend Elizabeth asks, what about music? What kinds of music are around the universe? Elizabeth, music is a constant in the universe. All races appreciate any kind of music, both sung and orchestrated. Currently in societies like mine, the songs are all electronic, as you call them. There are not many instruments to play, but the creators of good songs are very well regarded. I really appreciate your music played on piano, organ, and violin. You have good music creators. Kyuji asks, how do you feel the difference between evil and good? How do you know your leaders are not manipulating you or that everything they say is true? You see, a lot of Americans think their government is good to them. You can feel it, study to understand and be able to judge. If you cannot know beforehand if a leader is good or not, you can see what he is doing and to rebel against what you consider misconduct. The aberrations of conduct for leaders and representatives of a culture is caused and encouraged by the omission of that culture as a whole. When everything is going very well for a nation and very bad for the neighbor, it is a sign that something is very wrong. The growth of any nation based on the detriment of others is like a disease to a society that shares the same planet. These American citizens know exactly what their government is doing with other people, what is good for them. They really would rather not think about it because they do not feel directly blamed for the mistakes of the leaders and representatives they have chosen. Is there any ambiguity? Vikram asks, Mythi, I have a friend who claims to be able to see auras. He can tell not only the color but even the size of a person's aura. He said that once a person is spiritually enlightened enough, he can reincarnate at will in any place in the universe that matches his frequency. He also said that upon a great deal of control over your mind you can free yourself from the cycles of birth and death, and become one with the universe and only reincarnating upon your desire. He also said that it is possible to retrieve your memories from previous lives since a part of our essence is in the fourth dimension when we are asleep. Vikram, there exist sensitive people who may eventually see some of the aura frequency when concentrated. If you disembody and go into the fourth dimension, and if you are already a being with full conscience of your sequence of development. Yes, you have the chance to choose among the societies that are in your frequency to reincarnate. Mind control does not allow you to park and decide not to reincarnate. The sequence of development exists only in your reincarnation. If he is an intelligent being, he will not want to park while his friends and acquaintances continue to develop. When the mind is relaxed, sleeping, it is possible you will receive data sent by someone. But you will not have control of your mind to access your data in the fourth dimension, you will be sleeping. If you say you can see some information from previous lives in a state of deep concentration, there exists a possibility. Beastman asks, so other systems in the universe have faster and slower time? That's pretty much it. As there is a frequency of vibration of a system, you have an organic system clock. That drives your whole brain functioning. When we are in a place with a frequency very different from ours, everything can seem slower or faster. And we must adapt to the site to relate with local people. The time also varies in different locations with respect to the rotation and revolution of the planets around their respective suns. It's like being able to leave in the middle of a conversation after a question, take a shower, and return in time to hear the answer. Very strange at times. Speak asks, Mythi, is it promising that the Krolians will be able to slow down Nibiru? If yes, please explain. Speak, the system Nibiru is being slowed. But depending on what happens with the route of the comet Elenin, or if it causes an event of great proportions, they may choose to bypass the system Nibiru totally out of solar system, and then reset the original route. This is a plan, which we hear, is nothing official. Community Galactica scientists hardly stir on celestial bodies. But this may be a case where they have to open one exception. As I said, we will be monitoring the entrance of the comet in its orbital plane to assess the possibilities. Jonathan asks, why are there light spacecraft? Is it true that these are from high-vibration aliens and why there are metallic, triangular, cigar-shaped spacecraft? Is it true they are from lower vibrations like reptilians and Dracs? Why are Pleiadians like Colleen Thomas now showing up as whistleblowers? Is she a true messenger from Pleiades? Jonathan, when the spaceships seem enlightened, it is the force field that you really see. This has nothing to do with the frequency of vibration of the race that is using it. As I have explained, there are several drawings of spacecraft. Each race makes the design suitable to their needs or cultural trends. There are races that are still using secondary spacecraft with auxiliary jet-burning engines to aid in maneuvers because it is tradition to their pilots. You can see the flame discharge when they are sailing at low speeds. Do not confuse all reptilian races. You cannot generalize. There are reptilian races, as well as grey races, advanced and good-natured. They do not agree and do not relate to these problematic races. There have been and still are aggressive races on your own planet. As were the Mongols, Vikings, among others. You still have your mafias and your aggressive and tyrannical governments in your own countries. If we were to judge all of you for them, the human race would be a disease to be eradicated. With respect to the Pleiades, I have already said that there are no contacts or spokesmen. authorized or known by our fellow Pleiadians at this time.